So our next Prime Minister is William Pitt the Younger, who, guess what, is the son of William Pitt the Elder.
Get away.
Yeah, oh yeah. We done that twice and it still sounds just as good the second time, Charlie. Now, he was Prime Minister at 21 years of age. I mean, imagine that. There was a young lady in the Parliament elected at 20 last time, a young SNP MP. But imagine the idea of anybody that age being PM. And the important thing about Pitt, who was Prime Minister for 17 years the first time, he had the support of King George III. Referred to as Mad King George in the film, but I find him hard to hate, to be honest. He had his odd moments, like talking to trees and stuff like that. But a lot of the time, I don't know, he was alright. So, in 1784, it's February, and William Pitt, as I say, now 24, has been PM for 1 month this time. There was a small gap before, but he's actually been PM for 1 month. And an MP of the opposition, Thomas Coke, later a judge, came up with a motion in the Commons. I like the way he worded this, that the continuation of this group of ministers is an obstacle to an extended administration. Get out. This vote was carried against Pitt's government by 223 to 204, and Pitt ignored it completely. He carried on, he had the King's support, and he just carried on and he ignored the vote. He had the majority in the House of Lords anyway, which was still at that point the most important of the two chambers. So, Charles James Fox, who was never Prime Minister but was the leader of the Whig, as it was called then, opposition, he came up with another motion on the 1st of March 1784 to remove all ministers. And that was carried by 201 to 189. What did Pitt do? Completely ignored it. Then there was another stronger motion passed by the House of Commons, 191 to 119, which Pitt ignored completely. But he did something else as well, and he did something that some people are saying might happen this time. He advised the King to dissolve Parliament. He fought the election on who rules the country, the King and the King and his ministers, or Parliament. How very interesting. And the Conservatives gained 70 more seats, so thus improving their majority and making it impossible for Fox to raise a popular opposition. Pitt continued in office until 1801, when he told the King, after 17 years in office, that he was going to introduce a bill for what was known as Catholic emancipation. That meant to end the law that had considered Catholics a threat to the state by their mere religion and by their adherence to the head of a church outside of this realm. And this bill, Catholic emancipation, would have made it possible for them to gain office in counties, in magistrates and so on. George III said, "I will not have it." And after 17 years, Pitt resigned. But things got so bad under Henry Addington, the Prime Minister after that, and the war with France started again, and things were not going well, that Pitt was called back by King George III in 1804. He died in office just after the Battle of Trafalgar in 1806, worn out by hard work, they said, aged 46, a confirmed bachelor whose last words were, "I think I could manage one of Mr. Holland's meat pies." I prefer a meat and potato myself, if anyone's thinking. I do like them. So, Pitt's dead. Oh, Fox died in the same week, the former Whig leader, by the way. Our next vote of confidence is the ministry of which the Duke of Wellington was the Prime Minister. Now, Wellington of Waterloo, of course, wasn't a particularly successful politician. Not the first soldier in history, nor the last to dabble in politics. The Americans have been famous for it to some extent. I can think of a few. Eisenhower and there's one. There's one obvious one, but there's been plenty of others. Ulysses S. Grant. I could think of a few.
Yeah.
Wellington's in this government then, a Conservative government, quite an extreme Conservative government, I suppose some people might say. His young lieutenant is Robert Peel, who you'll hear more of. It's 1830. It's November. Now, what had happened was, and you often get this in our politics, the only people who can pass a certain bill are the party who you might expect to oppose it. So it was in 1829 that this very Conservative government finally passed the Catholic Emancipation Bill, which had defeated Pitt 28 years before. You wouldn't have expected Wellington to do this, but he did, and he got it through the Commons and the Lords. George IV, who was king by then, was against it, but not that much against it that he forced Wellington to resign. However, things weren't going well for the government. There was a finance question in November 1830. I put a finance question because it's far too complicated to go into. And the vote of confidence in the ministry was passed. His Chancellor, now this is his Chancellor, Henry Goulden, a motion before the House to go into committee to discuss the civil list. Now the civil list was what they paid to the royal family. Another MP, Henry Palmer, said, no, before it goes into committee, I want an inquiry into why we're paying them so much more than we paid them last year. The bill to do that, to talk about it before it went into committee, rather than when it went into committee, came before the House, and the government were defeated by 233 to 204, and Wellington resigned the next day.
Yeah, just as well, I've got you. The Scottish SNP MP was Mary Black, or is Mary Black.
Oh, well, right.
I looked it up while you were talking.
Oh, that's very good, Charlie. Right, I'll mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.